Well, good day, everybody. Here we are, the Bible in a Year 2021. We're on day 65, and we're looking at Numbers chapter 26 to 27. And over the next couple of days, the videos probably aren't going to be very long because we're heading into almost a review process here. But let's dive into this and see where we would go with it. So here in verse 2, we're seeing that there's a recount. And if you recall, which you should, because it was just the last day or so that we looked at this, um, there was a plague. There was lots of bad stuff that happened because of consequences to due to this new generation. And understand, this isn't the old generation. This is the new generation. That with the first temptation that they were faced with, quickly abandoned Yahweh and went with a Baal worship, and this was not pleasing to Yahweh whatsoever. They were insulting him and breaking the covenant, and so there were consequences. There was the snakes, there was the plague as well. So now it shouldn't surprise us they're taking a census. And take a census of the entire Israelite community from 20 years old and above by their households to determine everyone in Israel who is eligible for military service. This is important because they needed to know where they stood military wise, because they're going into invasion mode soon. They're approaching the launching place where they're going to go and confront Jericho. And although uh, their reliance was not upon the number that they had, because it was Yahweh who either gave them victory or where they faced defeat because of something that they did that he wasn't with them. Uh, they still needed to know what numbers they were dealing with. They needed to know how many of the military age had ended up dying as a consequence of the sin, the rebellion that they had committed. If we skip down to verse 54, where we're seeing here, where now Yahweh is starting to change their mindset. And I want you to understand, a mindset has to be changed as a new season begins. And they're going from survival in the desert, waiting for the last of the old generation to die off, so that they're now ready and conditioned to move into the promise. But there's going to have to be a change of mindset. So we see this, the beginning here, as they start contemplating how the land is going to be divided up. They haven't even stepped foot into the land yet, and yet they are looking at parceling up what they have not yet received. It's amazing, isn't it? Look at here in verse 54. To a large clan you will give a large inheritance, and to a small clan you will give a small inheritance. Each will be given its inheritance according to the number of its enrollment. The land, however, will be apportioned by lot. They will inherit according to the names of their ancestral tribes. This is important because Yahweh is big on justice, on fairness, and that's what we're seeing here. It's not like the land is being divided up equally, um, with everybody receiving the same size of land. They're receiving it according to the portion that they need for their size. And don't forget that they were all supposed to be occupied with multiplying, right? So they all had that responsibility to grow, and so it's, if you want to look at it per capita, just like how's this portion going to work out? But it's the idea of this justice, this fairness. It's not about equality here. Equality would say that each of them should receive the exact same size of land, but instead it's about what they need. Each receives according to their needs, so it's according to their size. And sometimes we get messed up with that in the church. That equality doesn't this doesn't mean that we're all going to get the same thing, but we're going to get what we need, and that's what we need to look at. we receive what we need for the task, for the assignments, for the mission that has been given to us. And we celebrate that. And when we see somebody has a larger portion, we automatically know that they need that larger portion. They need that more than we need that, and we celebrate that. At the same time, there's also the other aspect that we receive according to our faith, according to what we're willing to receive. And there's people who the Lord has intended to give them so much more, but their faith, their lack of faith has limited, their lack of understanding has limited them, and so they're not able to step into the more, and they're stuck where they are because that's as far as they're willing to believe. There's a lot to this, but let's just consider the justice of this, the equality of this, and understand Father's heart in it. In verse 57, um, we see this: these are the ones enrolled as Levites according to their clans. From Gershon, the Gershonite clan; from Kohath, the Kohathite clan; from Merari, the Merari clan. These registers are really important. These are the roles, if you want to call that the roles. This is families are registered here for the sake of going forward, and this will become a big thing, that ancestry, that being able to trace your ancestry back to the beginning of that clan, the beginning of that tribe. It's so very important. It's so important that we'll see many generations later, after they're returning from Babylon, from that deportation, there are some who are not able to step into the roles. There's some Levites and some priests who can't step into the roles because there was a neglect to have that name, the name of their family, the name of the clan registered in the register. So when they go to look back, somebody preserved all these records, and when they go to look back, they can't find them, so they cannot step into their duties. So that it's really, it was an important thing for them at that time. Um, let's make note here that Yahweh said that the the original generation, the ones that came out of Egypt as adults, um, that their children would end up suffering because of the sin of the parents, only because the whole community would have to live in the desert until that first generation died out, and then the children would be freed to be able to possess the promise. And in what we have here these verses that are around 64, we see that this has happened. There wasn't one person when they're doing the roll, when they're doing the register. This is what they note: there wasn't one person among these from those enrolled by Moses and Aaron the priest when they enrolled the first Israelites in the Sinai desert. In other words, that original roll, that original census that was taken, is the second one is compared to that first one, and there's not one name left. Every one of them have now died off. So they are primed. They're ready to go. The requirements that Yahweh had laid down have been fulfilled. So now they are on the cusp here of stepping into the fulfillment of the promise that has been given to them. Looking at verse 27, um, there is a problem. There's one family. There's only children, or there's only daughters that have been birthed here. Um, and they come to Moses, and they say, why should our father's name be taken away from his clan because he didn't have a son? Give us property among our father's brothers, because the land was just being divided up among the male heirs here. And these daughters come and they say, yeah, but what about us? There are no sons in our father's family. So why should his name die out? And this is important. And going forward, it's important because we have the whole thing that if the husband dies and the wife does not have a child, then it's the next brother who has the responsibility of marrying his brother's wife, and the first child born will bear the brother's name, so that the name will continue in Israel, that the name would not disappear in Israel. So it's the same principle that is being going to be applied here for the land. It's precedent setting here. Okay, this is what the rule is going to be going forward, and they go into great detail now here and break that down and explain all of it, of what has to happen. And this is important. Honoring the name is important, and is an Israeli name in Israel was important, that continue on. We don't really have that sense anymore. I did as a child. I remember talking over with my brother about our responsibility to carry on the family name. And when I look at my great grandparents, who they were the ones who came from my father's side, who came into the country, into Canada. Um, his family was from Switzerland. Hers was from Belgium, and they had six children who lived, six children who survived, and that they had really, it was considered a large family. They were wealthy until the great crash. There was a lot of money was lost. That's all I can say. Um, and they had their money invested in the wrong places, unfortunately. And their lawyer tried to do the best for them, for my great grandmother, that is, because my great grandfather had died, and she had done the family traditional thing of um, going back to the home country, and spending time with family there. While she was there, the stock market crashed. The lawyer tried, he tried to move their money out of the wrong stocks, but it wasn't as quick as it is today. And unfortunately, they end up losing everything, absolutely everything. But they had this large family of six children. And it's sad, that there, you know, there are branches, but not as populous as you would think, coming from a family of six children. I have 13 children. I don't think there's anybody in the family line who's as crazy as me. But it will be up to my children to decide how important it is for the family name to be carried on. And from what I see, it's not very important. Um, so, what will happen? Because we just don't have the same emphasis. It's not something that we see as important. But it was. We have to understand this was absolutely vital, vital enough for these daughters to come and say, we don't want our father's name to disappear. And for them to write an entire slew of laws to protect the names of the people born in Israel, that they would not disappear. Interesting, isn't it? Um, and then we see this grace shown to Moses, because he's done wrong. Aaron has already died. Moses has been told to prepare everything, to put his affairs in order, which for Moses is putting the nation in order, because he's about to die. But look what happens here. Look at the grace that is shown to Moses. You will see it. He's talking about um, taking Moses up onto a mountain so Moses could see the promised land. It says, you will see it and then join your ancestors, just as Aaron, your brother, has, because in the Zin desert, when the community confronted you, you rebelled against my command to show them my holiness by means of the water. So Moses did not follow um, Yahweh's instructions. He did it in such a way that he tried to take the glory for himself, whether it was intentional, whether he was just sick of everything. It didn't matter. What he did was wrong, and the consequences of that is because of his unfaithfulness. He could not go into the promised land, but yet Yahweh was giving him the opportunity to see the promised land. That's grace. we see here in verse 16, 17, why Moses is so wonderfully unique, and why his children didn't rise up as kings or anything to rule over, because Moses had an anointing and it changed his heart. Sometimes we think we get anointings because of our heart, as if we earn it, because we're something special, because we have what God is looking for. I'll tell you, he will turn any of us into anything that he needs when we submit ourselves to him. He won't work against us, but when we submit ourselves to him, he will transform us into what he needs. And that's what he did for Moses. Moses has been transformed. And Moses didn't want anything to do with this, and yet he submitted himself to Yahweh, and Yahweh transformed him. So Moses' heart became so, he loved the people so much. He was so possessed with their welfare and concern. His heart matched the Father's heart, or Yahweh as they knew him at that time. And so he says here, let the Lord, the God of all living things, appoint someone over the community who will go out before them and return before them, someone who will lead them out and bring them back, so the Lord's community won't be like sheep without their shepherd. Moses knew after all this time it was going to take strong leadership to keep these people together, to keep them on point, to keep them with the vision and understanding what it was that they were supposed to be doing. It was going to take somebody strong to be able to do that. So he did not want to leave until somebody was appointed to be able to take this over. And we see that the Lord had been preparing somebody all the way along. It was Joshua. And he says, take Joshua, Nun's son, a man who has the Spirit. So yeah, he's been hanging out with Moses all this time. So there's already been changes in preparation for Joshua. His heart is already for the people. He's picked that up. He's absorbed it, if you want, from Moses, a man who has a spirit, and lay your hand on him. This is the point of transfer. There he is about to transfer something to him. Place him before Eleazar the priest, because Eleazar is now the high priest. Eleazar the priest and the entire community. So this is to be done in front of everybody, and commission him before them. This is that anointing that he receives. You will give him some of your power, some of your power. He is not going to be a Moses. There will not be another Moses. You know, at all. This is Joshua will have a different role. He will have a different purpose here. You will give him some of your power so that the entire Israelite community may obey him. So he will receive that strong leadership anointing that Moses had, but he's not going to receive everything that Moses had. So, yeah, good stuff today, right? Okay, so we're moving forward. You guys have a blessed and wonderful day, and I just continue to pray that your eyes are being opened to who Yahweh is and why it is that we owe him all of our heart. Love you guys. Thanks for being with me today. God bless.